Hey there, Dango Stu here. Today's video is about my last round of modifications to the green machine and is proudly sponsored by marineengine.com. So first cab off the rank is to finish what I started last week, which is welding up and installing this sort of tow bar, light bar, whatever you want to call it. So we'll pick up there. First thing I'm going to do now is put some extra pipe coming back at an angle to the gunnel. I think it's a good suggestion, just making it a bit stronger if I am towing a heavier boat. So I'll cut this to be more than long enough to do 2 of these, and then we'll go inside and I'll cut it in half using a hole saw so it's kind of pre-notched to attach to the main loop. Now I'm going to use a hole saw slightly larger than the big tubing on the loop, mainly because I don't have the exact right size, and we'll cut the pipe and we'll see how well it fits. Unfortunately, the chuck key for the drill press is missing, so we're going to have to freehand this. It's not perfect, but it's a good place to start from. It saves sculpting the whole notch from scratch, so I'm happy with that. So this is what I'm going for. Notched up against here, down, and then just a bit of a bird's mouth cut out of the other end, and then I'll weld this onto the gunnel here, and I think that'll make the whole thing nice and strong. I've also cut a short piece that's going to be the pole on top to both stop the rope from sliding side to side and to give me somewhere to mount my anchor light. What I'm going to do now is use the same hole saw I used for the notching to cut a plate to weld onto the top. A couple of days have passed now since I cut the aluminium out, and I've done a fair bit of the welding, a little bit more to go, but I'll show you where we're at. So this is the corner that was cracked, that's welded up, and I've also welded this cleat on. Not super pretty, but definitely strong, so I'm hoping that'll last a long time compared to the plastic one. So I've got the original arms welded on now, and also these extension braces that are going to the transom. On top of that, I've drilled a hole in the bottom of the foot here where the wires are going to pass through, so I might try and make an effort to smooth those out a little bit so they're not too sharp. And the final piece of the puzzle is this little stand that's going to be for locking the rope off when I'm towing, as well as being the stand for my anchor light. I'm still going to be doing the video on welding aluminium, and this is the crack I've been saving for doing that video. On the top of the crossbar here, I've drilled a hole and cleaned it up a little bit for welding. And next thing I do is weld this little pole on the top here. Before I weld the anchor light on, I've got some of this stainless wire, like this. And I'm going to feed it through, right down, and I'll fish it out the hole at the other end. And I'll use that to pull my wires through once I finish welding. Alright, I can just see it in there now, so I'm going to grab a pick or something and just try and fish the end out through this hole. Alright, that wasn't too bad. What I will do now is drill another hole in the top of the crossbar for mounting the air horns, or something more practical if I happen to come to my senses, but at least the wires run. Now I've given it 10 seconds thought, I think I might actually drill this on the bottom, because I'm kind of happy to have the horns here, or a light or whatever I put here, and have the wire sort of come down and into the device rather than being a hole at the top for rain to get in. Now I'll just feed this end through the pole. There we go. Alright, there we go, ready to start welding. The hole saw actually did a reasonably nice job of notching this pipe, even though it was larger than the diameter of this large pipe. Oh, and just to show you how bright I really am, this spot is actually when I was holding a filler rod in my hand when I went to put my glasses on and poke myself in the face with it while it was hot. Nice one. Next thing I do is drill right through the seat, right through the foam. I've decided these wires, I don't want them visible, they're just going to go right through, so they're right out of the way. A little bit of extra work, but I think it'll be heaps better. This is the side of the green machine where all the control cables and the wiring loom runs up, so this is the side I'll be drilling through. I've drilled through the deck here. The hole in the foot was slightly outboard of these screw holes, so I've made it the same here. I don't really have a long drill bit, so I'm going to try just hammering this outboard drive shaft through the foam. I don't think it'll take much effort to get through it. Alright, punched a bit of core out the bottom, but that's alright. So I'm hoping Should be able to push those wires through to under the seat pretty easily now. Now comes the moment of truth. I'm going to pop it on. My big worry at this point is that when doing all the welding off the boat without it braced with timber or anything like that, it may have distorted and not kind of fit nicely, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. All right, step one is to push these down through the seat. Bolt holes sort of line up, screw holes line up. This is touching the deck still, or the transom. Dodgy angle there, but I can fill that with weld. All right, so now I'm going to put the bolts back in, the screws back in, then weld it to the deck. And once it's cooled down, I'll use these cables to pull the final electrical wires through. I'm quite stoked that nothing got distorted. These bolts are just dropping back in, so it stayed in shape really nicely. I decided just to weld the leading edges in the end, so we'll see how that goes. I might do the rest later, but it is pretty easy to blow through this tin here on the top. It's quite thin compared to the base, so anyway, I think it'll be strong enough. Up here now I've got this steel cable that I'm going to use to pull the wires through. So I've put the wire on, I've taped a good sort of 20 centimetres or so to give it plenty of friction. I don't want it coming undone when I'm putting it through. And then I've tried to sort of taper this end so it can fit through and not get caught on edges anywhere. So I'm going to get Dave to give me a hand and we'll see if I can pull this through. I'll just get you to feed the wire through while I pull this one. Okay. And then we'll... Our second wire came disconnected from the cable I was pulling it through with on the way through, probably because the other wire had sort of blocked it up a bit. So I'm actually going to drill a little hole in the base of the upright, see if I can see it, and I might just fish it out that way. Alright, use my hook once again just to fish the air horn wire, whatever it ends up being, out of there. So not ideal, but I can use some P-clips to come down here, it won't be too bad. And I'll just seal this up with some Sikaflex or a grommet or something. In hindsight, I probably would have used a hole saw to make a bigger hole in the bottom of the foot there. When I drilled the hole in the seat, I also probably would have put some conduit down through the foam to give the wire a clean path to run down, because the seat, the bottom of the seat is very close to the hull, so you can't pull the wire straight down. You have to pull a bit of an angle, and then it just cuts into the foam, and I think that gives a lot of the resistance. So a few things I do differently, but it'll be all right. This is the all-round white light I went with in the end. The mast here is nice and strong for towing as well. Most of the force will be taken by this crossbar, but I'll just take a few turns around this to stop the rope moving side to side. And the light's all wired up and working nicely now. It's great that the light is now the highest part of the boat, because it makes it a completely legal all-round white light for the first time. And it also means it's less likely to get broken by anything. And while I'm up here, probably the most long-awaited mod is these little star sort of mounting points, whatever they're called, because ta-da, means I can put some drink holders in finally. Obviously matching his and hers drink holders. Nice. I've also put a little bottle opener here on the dash. The next thing I do is paint the name of the boat on the starboard side of the boat. It's always had the Green Machine written on the port side, but it's never had anything on the starboard side. So I'm going to quickly do that. First up, I'm going to use a wire wheel just to brush a bit of the surface crud off. Then I gave it a bit of a wipe with acetone. After that, I sprayed a coat of etch primer on, let that dry, and then I just put some green on top of that. Now I'm going to do the lettering, all classy like, using electrical tape, because I can't find any masking tape. Next step is a coat of black over the top of the whole thing. And it's finished. Really stylish, low contrast writing. Only joking. Alright, now I'm going to peel this tape off. This is the reason I should have used masking tape if I had any. Might peel a bit of the green off, but do you think it's going to matter?
Such a comfort, quiet place.
I'm gonna let that dry a little bit, then I'm gonna put a few coats of clear coat over the top, just automotive clear coat. That way it'll last for 2 weeks instead of 2 days. This is just a generic Auto One top coat. When the boat comes out of the water again next year, I'm thinking I'm gonna paint that bit too. I've also redone the black, taped over the original writing on this port side. I really like this kind of patina you get with the old colours have worn off, the blue, the white, the silver, whatever. I really kind of like that sort of urban, grungy artwork thing. So that's actually my favourite side still. Alright, well thanks for watching. I'm actually quite happy with how this turned out. Really happy with the anchor lines, and the bar itself feels really solid. I'm looking forward to heading out in the water now in a couple of weeks' time and doing our first video using it, which will be on how to tow another boat. Alright, well take care and I'll catch you next week. See ya.